Dear friends and Talmidim, a thought on the weekly Parsha. So it is this week that we start Chumash Shemot, defined by the Ramban as Sefer HaGolus v'HaGeulah. And while Chumash Bereishis, we learned about the Ovis HaKdoshim and the Shavotim, the central figure, personality in Chumash Shemot, naturally is Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest of them all, the greatest amongst the giants. And it is clear in Bavli and Yerushalmi and Midrash Chazal and the Rambam and all the other sources, no one ever achieved the heights of Moshe Rabbeinu. What is the first thing we learn about Moshe Rabbeinu before anything else? Before we learn anything else about Moshe Rabbeinu, v'yehi b'yomim hahem, v'yigdal Moshe, v'yetze el Echov, v'yar b'sivlotam. He went out to his brothers, and he saw their pain. He felt their suffering. So obviously, that is the first trait expected of a manik b'Yisrael. V'yetze el Echov, v'yar b'sivlotam. Moshe not only felt their pain, he wasn't passive about it. He was active. And when he says two Jews fighting, Shnei Anoshim Ivrim Nitzim, he doesn't turn his head and pretend that he didn't see. He doesn't say, why get involved? He feels it is his responsibility when he sees pain to try to alleviate that pain. What is the second story we learn about Moshe Rabbeinu? That's the story of the saneh, of the thorn bush and the fire. V'Moshe hoyoroye es tzoin Yisrei choisnoi kohen midyon v'yenayeg es atzoin achar hamidbor v'yavoi el har hu Elohim choyreivo. V'yeru malach Hashem elo b'labes eish metoich asneh v'yah v'hinei asneh boya b'yesh v'asneh einenu ukal. He sees the fire burning the bush, but the bush is not consumed. It is not destroyed. But why does the Torah give us this introduction? V'yenayeg es atzoin achar hamidbor. There's an amazing and a beautiful Medrash Rabbah. The Medrash says, Moshe was a shepherd, and one of the little calves ran away from the herd. A shepherd needs to look after the herd, and sometimes a little animal here and there is lost. It is the natural price we pay to the elements of nature. But Moshe is different. And he runs after that little animal, that little sheep. And he ran a long way. He finally got there. And he picks up that little animal into his arms and embraces and brings her home. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev B'Shemayim observes Moshe Rabbeinu. And he says, Moshe, you are a loving shepherd. And you care about each and every individual. You will be the shepherd to my people, to my children. And Moshe Rabbeinu is to be Roye Yisrael, Goyel Yisrael, Umoshioi Be'ez Tzorah. That is why the Torah tells us, even before the revelation of the Saneh, Moshe hoyoroye es tzoin Yisroi, v'yenayeg es atzoin achar hamidbor. And then we come to this amazing revelation. Moshe sees an unbelievable sight. V'hinei asneh boya be'esh, v'asneh einenu ukal. What is the message HaKadosh Baruch Hu conveys here? The Balaturim explains, Hasneh is Gematria Sinai, the same numerical value. The fire that burned in the thorn bush in the Sinai ultimately will be the same fire Beroish Hahar and Har Sinai Bishas Kabbalas HaTorah. Fire is one of the most essential natural forces in the world. Fire gives heat. Fire gives warmth. Fire gives light. Fire is energy. But fire is probably one of the most destructive forces in the world as well. How many people have lost their lives and their homes to fire? Even in our day and age, many more than the past, when entire cities were built from wood, and there was no way to bring great quantities of water to extinguish fires. 100 years ago, there was a great fire in Chicago, in which half of the city burned down, and tens of thousands of people were killed. In times of war, it is fire more than anything else that causes loss of life. So fire is a Harav pepiyos, a two-edged sword. It gives light, it gives heat, it gives warmth. It takes life and causes destruction and death. The fire of Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaches Moshe. The fire of Sinai is the fire of the Saneh. Vehine asneh boya be'esh, v'asneh einena ukal. The fire is burning. It is giving warmth, it's giving heat. But it doesn't consume, and it does not destroy. That should be the Eish of Torah. In Sukkot of Chof Ches, Chazal teach us that Hillel HaZaken had 80 Talmidim. The smallest of his Talmidim was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Unbelievable. Because Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we learn so much about him in Shas. He was one of the greatest Tanoim. The greatest Tanoim were his disciples. Notably, Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkonos, Rabbi Shua ben Hanania, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. And he was the smallest of Hillel's Talmidim. And the Gemara in Sukkah says, he was Boki B'Kol HaTorah Kula, Masa Bereshis, Masa Barkova, Weiss, Abaye, Varova. Siches Oifes, Vachayos, Siches Dekolim. So who was the greatest of Hillel's disciples? Yonasan ben Uziel. What do Chazal say about him? When he was learning Torah, Oifa Poreach Ba'avir, Nisraf Behevel Piv. If that is the Talmud, what could we say about the Rebbe? The Ritva asked that question. So what happened when Hillel learned Torah? I said many years ago, and I later learned that the Imre Emes, the great Gerer Rebbe, said the same. Yonasan ben Azir was so great when he learned Torah. Oifa pareach ba'ava nisraf behevel piv. Hillel was even greater. Oifa pareach ba'ava lo nisraf behevel piv. And that is even greater. Because the Torah of Hillel HaZaken was the Torah of Sinai. It was the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu experienced. It was the Torah of the Sneh. Vehine hasneh boya be'esh, v'asneh einenu ukal. That is message number 2 that we learn about Moshe. V'yetze alecha v'yar b'sivlotam. He opened his heart and felt the pain and the suffering. He cared for each and every one of them. He cared for that little sheep or that little goat. And his Torah is a Torah that gives warmth. It does not destroy. It gives light. It does not consume. We are in Eretz Yisrael in the worst stage since the beginning of this pandemic almost a year ago. Thousands of people are infected every day. Tens of people die every day. It is so tragic. And many of us just look the other side and pretend we don't see. Many of us don't want to see. They don't want to feel the pain. They just want to go on with their lives, with their comfort. It's tragic. Just a few days ago, a family that I know, a young mother, 40 years old, got COVID, got corona, and she passed away 4 days later. She left 4 Yisayimim at home. She will not take her 4 children to the chuppah. And those children will never again see their mother. It is heart-wrenching. It's tragic. And it's futile. It didn't need to be. Nobody gets corona from the sun or the moon or the stars in the heaven. People get corona from other people. There's no other way. Everybody that is infected by someone that infected him. Everyone that dies from corona, someone caused that death. And many times by being irresponsible and reckless. We need to learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayetze el echa vayar b'sivloisam. He felt their pain. He heard their cries of anguish. He saw their tears. How could we be different? How could we be indifferent? All we need is to open our ears and our hearts. And what is asked from us? Just to follow the rules? Wear masks when you come between people, amongst people. Keep a distance. Be careful. Vayar b'sivloisam. And try to give light and warmth. That is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects from Manhigei Yisrael, from teachers of Torah, from leaders of Jewish communities. So we need to open our ears and our hearts to feel the pain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should take away this leiv even, and He should give us a leiv basar. Hamaracham al abriyas maracham emolav min hashomayim. That's the Gemara Shabbos Kuf Nun Aleph. If we will see the pain, and we will do everything in our power to alleviate that pain, to calm that sorrow, to be machazak yiddish akendalach, we will be zeicher to rachamei shamayim. B'derech she'odam moidid in loim min hashomayim, mido keneged mido, v'amaracham al abriyos marachamim olav min hashomayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yerachem Aleinu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, and refois, v'yeshuos, v'nachamois. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be menachem all those shavurei leiv. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should send us Moshiach Tzidkenu. V'yivne lanu beis migdoshenu v'sifartenu b'mheru v'yomeinu amen. Have a beautiful Shabbos, all of you.